Hi again, this is Frank DiMora. We're going to be getting into some more of the updates of Bible prophecy. If this is your first time, if you come to my website, www.demoraministry.com, you'll see the front and the back cover of my book. And right below it, there's a link that will allow you to actually download the entire book, 290 pages filled with proof, evidence, and documents that Jesus Christ warnings about these last days, all of them are coming to pass in one generation, exactly as Jesus stated in the book of Matthew chapter 24. Now, one of those prophecies that I want to get into has to deal with the coming wars. Two wars, Ezekiel 38 and Psalm 83. Now, we believe that the Psalm 83 war will happen first, but I want to show you that these wars that were prophesied are actually, we're seeing signs that they're going to happen very, very soon. Now, earlier in one of my posts, I showed you about the birds of prey that are in Israel that used to bypass Israel, flying from Africa over the Asia, and they didn't land in Israel because Israel was a barren and desert land. But now, in our generation, these birds are now in Israel, the birds of prey, and we believe that these are the birds that are going to be feeding on the enemy that attacks Israel in that Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 war. And so it's pretty interesting. If you haven't seen it, just scroll up and look at the birds of prey that I posted. But what I'd like to do is show you some current news about these wars, because we believe, according to the news that we've been getting for the last couple of years, it looks like September of this month, or excuse me, September of this year, 2010, or maybe in November, that we'll see a major war again in the Middle East. At least this is the direction that it's going, based on the tensions that are increasing coming out of the Middle East. Now, there is an article today that came out, and I'm going to quote this article. It says, nearly 1/3 of the Republican congressmen in the U.S. House of Representatives had introduced a resolution that would support Israel's right to use all means necessary to confront and eliminate nuclear threats posed by Iran, including military force. So we see now that the House, the Republican House, getting together, passing this resolution. By the way, in case you want to look it up, it's House Resolution 1553. Now, this resolution that was passed by 70, I believe it sponsored or was introduced by a Republican out of Texas, and there were 76 or 46 of the Republicans, including the Republican that sponsored and put the bill out. But it says that the House Resolution 1553 condemns the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran for its threats of annihilating the United States and the State of Israel, for its continued support of international terrorism, and for its incitement of genocide of the Iranian or the Israeli people. Excuse me. It supports using all means for persuading the government of Iran to stop building and acquiring nuclear weapons, and pledges that the U.S. will ensure that Israel continues to receive critical economic and military assistance, including missile defense capabilities needed to address the threat of Iran. So here we go. We have part of the House, the congressman in the House of Representatives, saying, let's go, let's pass this bill, we want to support Israel, we see a war coming, let's make the move on it. Now, also, there was another article that shows you about November. Again, like I said, we see a lot of articles about September and November. This article was entitled, Iran Sets Major Exercise, Ahmadinejad Sees War by November. And I quote, Iran, warning of an imminent war, has been preparing for another major military exercise. The Iranian Air Force has scheduled a week-long exercise in the western part of the country near Iraq and the Gulf. Officials said the exercise would seek to enhance interoperational ability as well as night missions. The maneuvers will also include mid-air refueling of aircraft. So we see that the nation's getting ready for what was already written in Scripture. Now, we believe that the scenario will look something like this. Israel, United States will hit Iran's nuclear weapon program to knock it out. Iran will not respond immediately, but what will happen is the bordering nations around Israel, those that are mentioned, all of the ones that are mentioned in Psalm 83, will immediately attack Israel, taking out revenge for the Iranian brothers. Now, that war will be won by Israel. Israel will incorporate more land, or take away more land, just the way they did in 1967 when they incorporated, or for the first time in 2,000 years, took over East Jerusalem again. And then what will happen is Israel, thinking that they're living in some kind of peace, they'll take the huge wall down that is 20 foot high and 320 miles long, and they'll be thinking that they're living in a time of peace, like it says in the 39th chapter of Ezekiel. And it will be during this time where they think that they're living in security that the Russians will mount an attack, bringing their closest ally, which is Iran and Turkey, and there's other nations mentioned. If you read chapter 11 of my book, you'll see all of those named in my book. And so that attack will happen. Israel will watch God come to the rescue. This invading army will be destroyed in the north, in the mountains of Israel. They'll never make it to Jerusalem. And the birds that have now stopped from migrating from Africa to Asia, instead of stopping in Israel, those birds that are there now, those birds of prey, these vultures and eagles and whatnot, they are there, and they will be feasting on these dead bodies just the way God said in Ezekiel chapter 39. Now, when the war is over, that war, the Ezekiel war is over, we'll see Daniel 9:27, I believe, come to pass, where the Antichrist will step up after this huge war, and he'll say, let's make a covenant. Let's have peace. And they'll have a peace covenant. It will be confirmed, as it says in Daniel 9:27, for a period of 7 years. Now, when you see that happen, if you're here, just get out your calendar and mark 1,260 days, because at the end of that time period will be the exact middle of the tribulation. That's when the Antichrist will go into the temple and tell everybody that he's God, and force everybody at that time that take the mark or the name of his, the mark or the number of his, which is associated with 666, and of his name. And if you don't take it, that means you're not going to worship the Antichrist, and they will hunt you down. And Revelation 24 tells us that they will behead you because you did not worship the Antichrist. So these things can all start very, very, very fast. If Iran is hit by the Israelis in September or November, only God knows when that's going to happen. He may delay it, but we're watching, because all the news shows us that this is a good possibility that this is going to happen. Now, at the same time this is happening, you see Luke 21:25, the signs of the roaring of the waves in the seas. And what pushes that? What pushes the waves? Huge storms, tsunamis, from earthquakes that move waves 500 miles an hour, tornadoes, hurricanes, and typhoons. And right now, China has 30,000 people trapped. It's one of the worst floods they've had in decades. It says floods caused by heavy rains in the northern China stranded tens of thousands of residents without power Wednesday, as the worst flooding in more than a decade continue to besiege areas of the country. So we're seeing all these things at the same time. Please read my book, because I outline all of the events in here, the prophecies. So if you want a clear picture to see all these things, go to my book and read it. It'll drive you to the Bible. God bless you.